Hello, hello, hello. All right. Well, sorry for the delay. We got a little scheduling snafu that we had here, but I just want to welcome you to the Orlando Magic Nation, your source for all things Orlando Magic on YouTube. For Magic fans, by a Magic fan. I'm Edwin Valentine, and I want to thank you very much for clicking on this live stream and talking a little bit of Magic with me. So, this is the post game of the second game of the preseason versus the 76ers. Now, for me, I took a few things away from this first game. If you watched the pregame or if you watched the alternate cast that I produced, and you might have heard this before, if not, then you're hearing it for the first time. Basically, I was most interested on how the Magic would play offensively. Obviously, we're still in the preseason, so there's going to be some hiccups when it comes to communication on the defensive end. And those are one of the two things that were talked about most this past week in training camp. It was talking about conditioning and also communication. So we'll talk about the communication when it comes to defense a little bit later on. But for me, the biggest thing I wanted to see was how the Magic are going to fare conditioning wise, how they're going to be playing, if they're going to play more up tempo, which is what we've been hoping for at least the last couple of seasons, especially when we see how well Franz gets out in transition. So, in that respect, I would say that the Magic did do well. They were able to kind of get up and down. After a bit of an uneasy start in that first quarter, they were able to settle down and able to really hit the pedal to the metal. And I would say, in contrast to game one, it was actually the bench in this game that was the catalyst for the up tempo play and the play that ended up propelling the Magic forward. Because last game, it felt a little helter skelter at the beginning as well. Desmond wasn't hitting as many shots as, again, we were hoping for him to hit 100% from three, but obviously that's not going to be the case. He's obviously going to take some time to get into rhythm over the course of the season. Last season, he struggled a little bit coming out of the gates, and he was able to really hit his stride a little bit later on throughout the season. So in the last game, we started off a little helter skelter, and then the bench came in and it kind of got worse. There was a lot more turnovers from the bench. They weren't shooting the ball all that well either last game. Now, this game, a little bit of the same through the first 5 minutes or so for the first quarter. The Magic had only scored about 7 points, so it was kind of a uh-oh situation, and we didn't know if they were going to be able to eventually pick it up a bit because they were really struggling when it came to shooting the basketball. And to give credit to the 76ers, they were playing really hard defense. Like they had several block shots at the beginning of the game because of Bona being out there. Kelly Oubre is a long defensive player as well, so they were doing a really good job of keeping the Magic in front of them. And when the Magic did pass them, there was a couple times where they were able to still get the blocks. So, in that respect, we do have to give Philadelphia some credit for their tough nose defense, because obviously this is not just Magic versus Magic. This is Magic versus the 76ers. So they did a really good job of getting them, kind of having the Magic being on their toes a little bit, at least in that first 5 minutes or so. Then once there was that timeout, and then there was starting to be a couple changes in the starting lineup, then it felt like things started to really, so it started to click a little bit. Jet was the first one off the bench in this game. He was the one that replaced Franz in the beginning of the first quarter. So that was interesting to see that they're really giving Jet an opportunity to play with the starters and to hopefully be able to be that person to continue to stretch the court a little bit. So that was a good thing to see, that they have confidence in Jet, and Jet's probably earned that respect through the training camp so far. So let's hope things are gonna go better for Jet this season than in the last couple seasons. So we started off a bit slow, then we started to pick up the pace, and by the end of the first quarter, we had scored over 34 points, I think it was 34 or 36 points through the first quarter. So that's the type of offense that we're really looking for. And there was two plays in particular that was the most inspiring and the most exhilarating in that you're like, okay, the Magic are actually going to be doing this. There was a free throw that was shot in the first quarter. A free throw was made, and the Magic literally got the ball out of bounds and tossed it up court, and there was a 2-on-1 basically with Paolo and Franz going against one guy, and in the end there ended up being a foul. So that's the type of plays that we're looking for. Franz ended up getting his two free throws off of that play, and that's really just from them playing fast. And now, the positive of the playing fast, there's two ways, and those are the two things that they've talked about in training camp this week have been both communication and conditioning. So with the conditioning, as we saw, they actually played a lot more up tempo. They also played longer in the game than I was expecting, especially a lot of our rotation guys like Paolo, like the whole starting lineup ended up starting the second half. So they played over 20 minutes, many of them. So that's good. We're starting to ramp up their minutes a little by little. The Magic are going to look to likely play with at least 10, 11, maybe 12 guys when it starts the regular season, just because they want to play up tempo on offense and play stifling defense, which takes a lot of energy, right? Like that's just something that is going to be tiring for much of our guys. So we're going to need a kind of a whole new section of guys to come in with a renewed energy and a renewed passion to do both those things. So I think in that respect, it's going to be interesting just to see how the rotation expands and contracts throughout the year, especially because we want guys to have some footing under them in case there are any injuries throughout the course of the season. So with conditioning, it seemed in the end they scored 128 points. I think it was in the end. So that to me, I think they ended up showing that they had that in them. They scored 66 points in the first half, and I guess 62 in the second half. So the Magic scoring 60 points and a half is like amazing. And in the end, we were hoping that this would be the case, that they would play more fast paced, that they would play way more up tempo. And so far through two games, the starters are doing it. Now, there are a lot of negatives, or there are a couple negatives, let's say, that come from that. As we've seen, there have been a lot of turnovers so far in the first two games. Partially that's due to maybe just getting a feel of Desmond and Tyus not knowing exactly where guys want the ball. But it also feels like it's just really careless turnovers. It's more two guys going for the ball when it's a fast break and it's kind of a 2-on-1, and there's two guys on one side, or 3-on-1, I guess, and two guys on one side, and both guys kind of bump into each other as they're trying to get to the ball, and then the ball goes out of bounds, or just trying to hit that quick outlet, but instead of getting in front of the guy, you kind of throw it behind him, so he's not able to catch it, and it ends up going out of bounds. Desmond had one that bounced right off of his foot out of bounds when he was trying to push the pace, right? So far, there've been more turnovers in that respect. So I don't know if that's something that we would want to have happen, in the matter of we want to play faster. So inherently, you're going to have more possessions, which means likely your turnovers are going to go up. We're hoping that that's not going to be the case, and that they get a lot of these jitters out and a lot of these communication, small detail turnovers. Hopefully, those get ironed out over the course of the rest of the preseason, so that once we get into the season, then they're able to hit that guy in stride as he's streaking down the courts for an easy layup on the other end. So that's that. So the first thing are the turnovers. The second thing is the defense. Obviously, we hang our hat on defense, and in the end, we only allowed 98 points in total, but they scored 66 points also in the first half. So that second half is when they played, I'm guessing, a lot of their Exhibit 10 guys and a lot of their G Leaguers in the game, just partially due to their injury situation that they're dealing with now. So those guys were jacking up threes and they were not even close, to be honest. But that was, I think, why the Magic were able to hold them under 100 points. Now, it's good to hold anybody under 100 points, no matter when it is, but it really didn't feel like the Magic were on their game when it came to holding the other team down defensively. Now, maybe that's part of the conditioning that Mosley and everybody's been talking about for the training camp so far. Like you just didn't have enough energy to expend on the defensive end because they're burning it on the offensive end. So that's going to be the interesting yin and yang that the Magic are going to have to deal with, especially early on in the season, for them to really understand where they're going to be, having their bread buttered ultimately, because we're supposed to be a defensive team. Now, if we're scoring 128 points quite often, then that's going to behoove us. Obviously, it's going to be good for us as a team, but we definitely want to try to keep the not the possessions low, but we want to be able to keep the other defense in front of us because far too often they were blowing by us, especially Maxi and their other little tiny guard, Chandler, I think his name was, number 14 in Philadelphia. Both those guys were attack mode, and for whatever reason, our guys were a little too slow in being able to keep them in front of them. So let's hope that again, this is preseason. Guys are just still getting their legs underneath them when it comes to the defensive principles and defensive scheme and sitting down and showing their hands. So hopefully that is going to be the case. So those are the two drawbacks right now that we're seeing when it comes to playing faster. But again, in the end, we're 2-0 so far in our preseason. It's preseason, so it doesn't really matter what your record is. It just matters that you're stacking days, as the Magic have been talking about so far in this off season or in this training camp, really, that you want to stack days. So they started with the previous game where I would say our guys really didn't snap out of it until the second half. And in this game, it happened a little bit sooner. They were able to really dial in. And in the end, they were able to be more efficient when it came to scoring. They shot 51% in the first half, scoring 66 points, while they were still only shooting about 25% from three. So we see that they were attacking, they were playing faster, they were able to get the ball in the basket. So that's something that you really can't be too upset about in the end. I think the concern is more on the defensive end, where in the second half they gave up only 32 points. So that looks good, that looks fancy. But if we were playing against some of their guys they were playing earlier on in the game, then it likely would not have been the case because our guys just were not dialed in on the defensive end as they were on the offensive end. So that's going to be a weird thing to say if that happens very often for the Magic this year. So I don't see that being something that happens that often. We scored pretty easily, especially in that second half. So our deep bench is really good, and I think that's going to be a superpower of ours when it comes to the regular season, and why I think we're going to have a lot of wins. I'll talk about my win prediction a little bit later on in the preseason, just to do a full preseason or to do a full season preview. I'll have a whole video out on that. But the Magic likely are going to win a lot of games this year, and I think a lot of that is going to be due in part to our depth. Where during the commentary or during the Altcast, I was mentioning that a lot of our guys are well. So to talk about the second thing, that I was looking for into this in this game was again how our potential guys, our X factors, are the ones that how are they starting to play, right? Like, so if you've been listening to different podcasts or you've been if you've been reading a bunch of different articles on the Magic this year, the number one X factor that keeps popping up is Anthony Black, and how is he going to play this year coming off the bench? Is he going to be kind of taking a back seat because Tyus is going to be there, or if he's going to continue to be aggressive, which was a term that he talked about in media day himself. And after this first two games, we see that he has been attacking. He played a lot better in this second game than he did in the first game. He didn't have as many turnovers, I don't think. At least it didn't feel like it. In that first game, it felt like he was just tossing the ball all over the place, and he just wasn't necessarily didn't have his bearings yet at that point. But in this game, he came in and he was able to orchestrate a lot of the offense, and he was also attacking. There was a couple times where he just walked into a three, which shows confidence in his shot. He was able to make those. It was a couple from the corner that he hit as well. So, or at least he took. And I think that's the big thing. Sometimes you're not going to make them, but just like Franz last year, you have to continue to take them. Even if you're not hitting them at a huge clip, you have to continue to attack, 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 and keep shooting those shots. So AB, I think, came up in a big way in this game. Tristan is another one of the potential guys that we have off of the bench, and Tristan, same thing. Tristan is so smooth though. Like when he plays, it doesn't feel like he's too rushed. He just kind of comes in, does his thing, and he ended up having a good game as well. And it just the same could be said for him when it came to just he just walked into a couple threes in the second half, and he just felt so much more confident than what he has been in the past. Far too often, if you watch my player profile for him, but just in general, you saw that he would kind of blend into the background a little too much last year. And he was a rookie, so he was getting his bearings about him, and he's laying the foundation for hopefully a long NBA career. So that was good in a lot of respects, but the thing that was really lacking for him last year was that presence. He really wasn't out there. He didn't you couldn't feel that he was impacting the game, even if he's not scoring a bunch, even if he's not he doesn't have the ball in his hands. He still could have a very positive impact on this team just by his defense, right? And that just didn't you didn't feel that all the time from him last year. This year, however, so far in these first two games, he's been calm, cool. He's been orchestrating some things himself, but even the more surprising and exciting thing are his are him taking just pulling up and hitting those threes without having to kind of like second guess himself and look around and try to pass the ball off to anybody else. So AB good game, Tristan big game, and then the X factor, which Desmond Bain called the person who Desmond Bain called the X factor was Desmond, or not Desmond, was Wendell. And Wendell ended up having to rock his old school glasses in the second half because he got poked in the eye at one point. So I'm guessing he lost his contact. And Wendell balled today. 20 points, 13 rebounds in about 20 ish minutes. So he has been very impactful in these first two games. He's been just all over the boards. To be fair, he got Bona got him a couple times for Philadelphia, and I think Drummond did as well. But he still was in there battling as Wendell always does, and was able to still get 13 rebounds in the course of just 20 minutes. So that there's two things that come from that. That means that he's grabbing offensive rebounds, but it also means that the Magic are playing faster because there's going to be more rebounds available because they're going to have more shots on goal, right? So that's going to be something that will be interesting to see for his rebounding totals this year. But he seems fluid. He's coming into this season healthy. He had a full off season to work on his shot, and so far so good. He did miss his one three-pointer, but his mid-range, he actually took a couple mid-range jumpers and he made them both. So very even after a little bit of razzle dazzle dribbling, he did still end up shooting a really nice shot in the mid range. So that was good to see from Wendell. And then the other thing that we were wondering, because it was Franz's debut this preseason, was how was Franz going to look? And he played about 20 minutes. He scored a couple baskets. He definitely did not feel like informed Franz, just because he was not he was attacking a bit, but it just felt like he was there to pass the ball around, that he was just there to get some play in, just because he's been off now. He had the extra week off since he didn't play in the PR game, plus the couple weeks that he had off after Eurobasket. So he's still in basketball shape, of course. It's just he didn't feel like he was entrenched in this game. He just felt very passive in this game. So he ended up with, I believe, 8 points in the end, or 6 points. And we'll go over the box score a little later on. But to see Franz, he ended up with a lot of fouls. So he did move his feet on a few different instances where I think it was Tyrese Maxey tried to take him, and Franz, being as long as he is, was still able to shuffle his feet, and he was able to cut off the drive. Then he gave the ball up, and then he tried to do a back cut, and Franz again was able to tip the pass away because he is just so long and he's pretty fast. So that was a good thing to see from Franz. He ended up with two steals over the course of the game. two steals, two rebounds, two assists. It was a bunch of twos for Franz this game, and in the end, we hope to see in 2 days' time, or if he doesn't play this next game, then in a week from now on the 16th, that we can see him be a bit more involved in the offense because he wasn't passive. I wouldn't say passive. He just definitely was on the outside of things and kind of just watching what was happening as opposed to attacking the basket. Like there was a couple times where Desmond basically was just driving the ball and trying to hit the paint so that he can spray the ball out or try to take the layup himself, and it just didn't feel like Franz was playing with that bit of forcefulness that we're used to him having. But again, it's his first game of the preseason. Obviously, they're going to all look at the film from this game and see what they could all do better, and hopefully come up with a better. I don't know. I don't even know if you need a better performance next game. Scoring 66 points in the first half and 128 the in general is it's still a good game. Obviously, offensively, hopefully they're just going to be able to tighten it up defensively when it comes to the first half or when they were playing guys that were going to likely play more in the NBA. So the last little bit to say is that yes, they gave up 66 points, but you could just feel that the energy from those that were playing from Philadelphia was just at a different level. And partially that's because a lot of those guys are not the guys that are going to be likely on their roster opening day. They're more the G League guys or the Exhibit 10 guys or the undrafted rookies. So they were really playing with passion because they have a lot to sell. They have a lot. They're trying to sell themselves in getting either a roster spot or getting on the well, if they're Exhibit 10, then they'll be on the G League team. But you can see that these guys were playing with just a different type of passion than what the Magic were. The Magic, you can see, were not going through the motions in a negative way, but they were definitely like, okay, here we go. We're gonna run this set. We're gonna run this play. We're gonna do this. While the defense of the Sixers was all up in your face and very chaotic and very energetic because they you can see that these guys needed it more. So that's something that actually is probably a good thing for the Magic to see because on the film they're going to be able to see this is the type of defense and this is the type of play that we're going to need the guys that are in the NBA that are always going to be in the NBA, but we need to play with such ferocity so that we can just exhaust the other team. And that's what the whole point of the conditioning bit of training camp was, is for them to really hit defensively, continue to make sure that they're shutting down the other team while also having a little bit of energy left to run out as often as they can and get easy baskets on the other end. So that was a good thing for them to see, and I think they were taken aback by it a couple times, where they probably thought that it was preseason, so they're going to be able to lob a couple of these passes and on pick and rolls or throw a nice easy bounce pass. While the 76ers were not about that. They were out there to get every ounce of the game on their end because again, a lot of these guys are not on the main roster, so they're really trying to earn a spot on a club. So that was that. So now let's go over the box score. So here we have. So yeah, so as I mentioned before, we'll go through each person and kind of give a grade on what they and how they played today. So Franz, it's his first preseason game. He played 20 minutes, 2 of 5 from the field, 0 of 1 from three. The three looked good. It was in the flow of the offense. He didn't have a hitch. He wasn't dribbling too much and didn't have to toss it up at the last second. So those type of threes, I think we should hope from Franz to be taking the threes in the flow of the offense and not just tossing it up willy nilly when he has like 2 seconds left on the shot clock because he's dribbled the ball for 6 seconds. I'm not saying he does that all the time. It's just something that we want to make sure that that's not the case, that he is shooting them in the flow of the offense. And also, we saw that. If you watch the game, that because he didn't have that much time to release the shot, that he shot it fluidly. So he again, if you've been watching my past videos, especially all my breakdowns of his Eurobasket games, most of the time when people would go under the screen, that would be the time where he would then really, you can see him taking the time because he's like, okay, I can line this up. Look at it. go, hey, oh, huh. And that's what was happening most of the time when people were going under the screen. When they would go over the screen or when he didn't have that much time and there was somebody near him, then he would just fluidly launch those threes and he was hitting a okay amount. He basically ended Eurobasket at around the same percentage as he did all of last season. So we were hoping for a little bit better, but he definitely was in a streaky streak in the Eurobasket because in group play he had a pretty good percentage. It was just those knockout rounds that he struggled a little bit from three. So that's a bit on Franz. He made all of his free throws. Again, like I said, a bunch of twos the rest of the way. 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 turnovers, 4 personal fouls, including a flagrant one for 8 points. Paulo, 23 minutes, 4 of 12. Now that's not a bit concerning. Again, it's preseason. It's not the end of the world, but efficiency is the name of the game. So if you watched my player profile on Paulo, and if you were playing a drinking game and the amount of times I said efficiency, then you would have had a really good night. So that's the thing that we're looking for from him. For me, it's the relentlessness and efficiency. If there were 2 words that I would put that, if I would put on Paulo, that I would hope from him this year, those are the two that I would do. So 4 of 12 from the field, not great. 0 of 3 from three. There was one in the corner. I think Paulo will end up being a pretty good corner 3 point shooter. So he just needs more reps at it. So he's taken at least one in each of these 2 games, which is great. I think it'll come. I think his shot will come. The 5 of 6 from the free throw line. Free throws were looking good. That's good to see. 4 rebounds, 2 assists, no steals, another block. So 4 blocks in 2 games. 3 turnovers. A couple of them were textbook Paolo turnovers that we're hoping that, again, he gets these out of his system in the preseason and hopefully they don't rear their heads up in the regular season for a total of 13 points. Then for me, player of the game, Wendell Carter Jr., 6 of 8, 0 of 1 from three, 8 of 9 from the free throw line. He ended up with like 6 offensive rebounds, 7 defensive rebounds for 13 total rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, and for 20 points, like I said. Desmond Bain ended up with 8 points on 2 of 6 from the field. Desmond hasn't really been shooting all that well these first 2 games. So in the end, hopefully he's not putting too much pressure on himself to perform any better than what we need him to. So that, I'm not in his head, but let's just hope that it starts to even out a little in these last 2 preseason games. He was 0 of 2 from three, 4 of 4 from the free throw line, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block for Desmond as well. So that was pretty good for his 8 points. Tyus ended up hitting a three for his 3 points, 1 of 4 from the field, 1 of 3 from three, with 1 rebound, 2 assists, and 1 turnover. That led to an easy basket on the other end. Guys are going to turn the ball over. I know this is something that everyone's talking about a bit with Tyus, how he has such a high assist to turnover ratio. People are going to turn the ball over still. It's fine. So both Tyus and Desmond haven't really played their best so far in the preseason, and neither really has Paulo. So let's hope that again they're just getting their legs under them, getting into game shape, and hopefully that's something that will again even out in these last 2 games. Then it's Jet Howard was the next one that shows because he was the first one off the bench. He shot 3 of 7 from the field, 3 of 6 from three. So he's one that's not shy. He's going to get his shots up. So it's good to see that mostly happened in the second half with no assists, no rebounds, 1 steal for his 9 points. AB with 12 points on 3 of 9 shooting. I love that 9 shots. You see, like we're talking about, him being more aggressive is going to be the key or one of the keys to our season. So 3 of 9 from the field, 2 of 4 from three. Like I said, he just stepped into one like a baller. 4 of 6 from the free throw line. He struggled a little bit from the free throw line the first 2 games. 2 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 block, and what is that? 2 turnovers for his 12 points. Then Then we have Jace Richardson. He was the next one in. 3 for 3, 2 of 2 from 3 point land, 1 of 1 from the free throw line. He ended up with a 4 point play at one point, and with 4 rebounds, 2 assists. And then yeah, he ended up with a block as well. I think he did he really was competing because as we saw in this game, Jace is just gonna end up being. They have Jason. I'm just realizing now. Jace Richards. Anyway, so Jace, as we see, he is gonna get picked on when it comes on defense. At different points, he was on Tyrese Maxey, and Tyrese was just blowing past him. Again, he was competing, he was trying, he was out there really putting in the effort, and that's just gonna end up being what we need from him to continuously be trying and put that effort, put that aggression on the defensive end, even if he's not always gonna be making the plays and the guys are going to take advantage of him just a little bit on there. But offensively, as we saw, perfect from the field. Another good game from the rookie on this one with 9 points. Tristan Da Silva, 4 of 6 overall, 2 of 4 from three, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 steal, all the other things. So I think we can see that Tristan looks comfortable. At least it's what's popping off and popping out of the screen for me is just how comfortable he looks. Like he looks like he's working. He just seems slower. Everything seems like it's happening a bit more slow for him. So that I think is a great sign that he's gearing up for a real big year this season. He ends up with 12 points. Goga ends up with 11 points. So like I said, our primary bigs in this game, Wendell and Goga, they ended up combining for 31 points, 19 rebounds, and 3 blocks or something like that. So the center position has been one of those positions that, or at least on the Magic, are the position that everyone is wondering if what we have on the team right now is going to play at a high enough caliber for a championship contender, which is what we're hoping that we are. And so far through the preseason, both guys have played pretty well. Goga didn't play as well that first game, but in this game he played much better. So it's good to see that these guys are getting in, rounding into form. Bagoga, 5 of 7 from the field, 0 of 1 from three, 1 of 1 from the free throw line with 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 spike blocks. Like there was one that it was like there was Ubre. Ubre kind of lofted it up and he spiked it down. That's what we're talking about. Then Ji played sparingly, as we see, only 8 minutes. 1 of 3 from the field, 0 of 2 from three, 1 of 2 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds for his 3 points. And then we have Noah. So Ji and Noah were the ones that came out in in the fourth quarter, basically, just to get some reps. So Noah in 12 minutes is a 2 of 4 from the field overall, 1 of 2 from three. So again, Noah has a pretty good shot, and it's good form, let's say. He's just going to need more feel, and hopefully that comes along throughout the season. 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 6 big rebounds, and then 2 steals as well. So that's something that Noah was doing his work there. Jamal Cain also came in. He was the first of our two-way guys to come into the game. 3 of 4 from the field. He didn't shoot a three, which I think is a positive. His three-point shot isn't where he's going to get time. His time is going to be on the defensive end and slashing and cutting at the basket. So, yeah, 2 rebounds, 1 block. It was pretty much it, or no blocks. And then that's one personal foul for his 6 points. Then Reese Beekman was our first Exhibit 10 guy to come off the bench. So in his 8 minutes, he was 0 of 1, but he was definitely competing, especially on the defensive end. Like he again is a smaller guy, so it seemed that they were trying to attack him, but with his quick hands he was able to kind of deflect the ball and try to stifle the momentum of the defender coming at him. So Reese Beekman did a pretty good job for his 12 points, ended up with 4 assists. So he did a lot of good work there. Then Lester Quinones came out, the other of our Exhibit 10 guys. So these are the two Exhibit 10 guys that got playing time. So maybe that tells you where the competition is right now in terms of that last two-way spot for the Magic. Lester, 1 of 2 from the field, 0 of 1 from three, hit his free throw. He hit a nice and one as he got just demolished on the inside. He still was able to flip it up and get it in to the basket. So he had his 3 points, 3 rebounds for him, and is a plus 16. As you see, all the last guys. So that last fourth quarter, our guys just demolished the back end bench of the Philadelphia 76ers. Lastly, our other two-way guy got it in the last 3 minutes. He ended up with 0 of 1. He shot like this lefty hook in the lane, missed it. Ended up with 2 free throws for his 2 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist for the Magic there. So those actually. So yeah, so that was game 2. So game 2 is in the books now. So they're gonna have a lot to look over in the next day before they play on Saturday, on the 12th, whatever the 12th is their next game. So um I don't remember what day of the week it is. Anyway, they play on the 12th, so they'll have 1 day in between. They're going to end up going back to Orlando for these last two preseason games. They're only going to have a 4 game preseason, so it's going to be pretty lighter coming up after they play in 2 days. Then they play a few days after that, and then we're getting ready for the regular season. So we're almost there, everybody. Only 2 more preseason games left before we are playing meaningful games that hopefully are going to lead to a very big season for us this upcoming year. So let's see what the next couple days have. I don't know if they're going to do another bit of training camp tomorrow, but we'll see after the media availability what comes up of that. And then they play in a couple days on the 12th. So I won't be doing these live streams the next couple games just because I'm getting married this weekend and going on a honeymoon. So I likely will be able to start this back up when it is the first game of the regular season. So we'll talk to you then. So again, thank you very much for watching the Orlando Magic Nation, your source for all things Orlando Magic on YouTube. For Magic fans, by a Magic fan. I want to thank you very much for clicking on this video and spending a little bit of time talking Magic with me. I hope you're having a great night.